So we'll move on to some more complaints. Let's start creatures have a head. Alright, in progress, we have to have a head, potentially a spinal cord. So concept 34.2, so probably the craniates are cords that have a head. They originate to complex when it can nervous system movement, feeding ears, a central brain. Just allows for greater view, different things. The skull, they have eyes, their sensory organs, all of this tied to nervous system. So there's crania, whatever they have cleans, these are the regions that are controlled genes. Have basically is regulatory that have allowed. One feature unique to crania is what's called the neural crest. It's a collection of cells near the dorsal nose and neural tube in an crest. I think of an illustration of it in just a second. Crest end in the embryo, it gives stones. The cells that you see, they're called, and these are called neural crests, and throughout the development go on the jaw, head of the craniate. So here you have basically in like human cells to become part of the skull, but those cells that originate in this little area called the neural crest. We've already talked about how in species the pharyngeal, slim gills in live in the water, such as the craniate, more muscular than the tunicate lancelets. The craniates have chambers. When you heart, more robust circulatory system with metabolism, you can move material, oxygen, and enter molecules around your body at a faster rate, and so you can have a higher metabolism. So craniates have a heart with at least 2 chambers. They have red blood cells with hemoglobin, and they have kidneys. Again, more and more complex systems allow for greater complexity of the metabolism as well. The origins of craniates, fossils from the Cambrian explosion. Recall this period of time that we call the Cambrian explosion, where we have a record of fossils of a vast diversity of life kind of emerging. Fossils from this period document the transition to craniates. The most primitive of the fossils are those of this 3 centimeter long creature. It looks like Haikuela, kind of sounds like the poem, the haiku. Haikuela had a well-formed brain, eyes, and muscular segments, but no skull. So it was very close to being like a modern craniate, but it didn't have exactly all the parts. So this would be the fossil information, and this would be a artistic rendition of what it might look like. Has a lot of the same things that a chordate has, including some of the features of a craniate, but not a full skull like you would expect a craniate to have. In other Cambrian rocks, paleontologists have found fossils of even more advanced chordates, such as, and again I don't know the name here, it looks like Mylocunnimingia. The Mylocunnimingia is the picture that we showed at the very beginning of this chapter. It had parts of a skull and was more of a true craniate. So that early picture that we showed, and we said, how does this guy relate to modern, say, vertebrates? Well, he's an ancient ancestor of, and he was more similar to a modern craniate with a skull, or at least parts of a skull, and some of the other things we discussed. Let's continue to move toward greater complexity. Let's look at one of the very simple craniates, and that would be a hagfish. You may have heard or seen this before. The most basal group, meaning kind of down toward the bottom of the tree here, of craniates is the Myxina. I think it's called Myxina, and that's the hagfish. That's its common name. It has a cartilaginous skull and an axial rod of cartilage derived from the notochord, but it doesn't have true jaws and a vertebrae. They kind of sort of look like snakes or worms. They have a small brain, eyes, ears, tooth-like formation made of cartilage. They don't really have a jaw, really, and they don't really have a skull. Most of them are marine, and most of them are bottom-dwelling sort of scavengers. So here's what he looks like, hagfish. You may be familiar with them because they have slime glands on their body, and if you've ever watched, like on the Discovery Channel, that Dirty Jobs show or something, when you put them in danger or pick them up, they will produce huge amounts of this slimy material that comes out of their body, and it will just cover you in slime. So these guys are considered chordates, and they are considered craniates, but they would be the most simple of that group. Alright, we're going to pause right there. We're going to move on and continue to go up in complexity. The next creatures we look at are going to be vertebrates, which would be craniates. They would be kind of, if we're going down the list here, they would be craniates that have a backbone. So we're getting more and more complex as we go. So we started off by talking just about, say, for example, chordates in general. Kind of go back to that main slide here. So we started off talking about chordates in general, which would be all of these guys, and then we got to craniates, and now we're going to go on to vertebrates, and you're going to get closer and closer to the groups that are you're probably more familiar with, the animals that you're more familiar with. So let's take a quick break and then we'll move on to the vertebrates, creatures that have not only a head and a skull but a backbone as well.